So last week when we spoke for Mowgli, you told me an amazing story about calling Gary Oldman up because he played Churchill, and you were talking about the weight, you gained 20 pounds. He's like, I didn't gain any weight.
I actually called up Gary because I knew he was playing Churchill, and I'd already by that point put on a ton of weight to play Cheney. And I said to Gary, so how'd it go? How much weight did you put on for it? He said, I didn't put on any weight. I went, no, how much weight did you put on for it? And he went, no, Chris just told you no weight. I said, no. He said, I didn't put on any weight. I was like, oh my God, I'm already like, 20 pounds in, and that was just the tip of the iceberg. I just kept going because I was like, I'm going down this track already.
And when I posted that interview clip, every single person underneath it commented, how did Christian Bale lose the weight so fast?
Right.
And I'm sure it's a question you've gotten before, but I mean, as I sit here right now and I look at you in Vice, I don't see the same person at all, clearly, because it's amazing.
Thank God.
Yeah, but how do you lose it so fast? Like, what is there a safe way to lose it?
I don't know. It wasn't that fast. You go to bed hungry, you feel miserable, and you eat your kids' leftovers. Eat between 12 and 6.
Wow.
Drink tons of water, and be miserable. And you'll manage it.
One of the things that you mentioned in our interview, obviously, you said when you look in the mirror, you don't want to see yourself. You said, I don't...
It's very helpful.
Yeah.
Too. And it's also partly me that I like to look in the mirror and see somebody totally different from me. It just helps me a great deal. I never studied acting at all, so I just make it up as I go along. And so I like that. I like looking in the mirror and going, I ain't there.
Like in the process of becoming Dick Cheney, at what point do you not see yourself? Is it with the full weight gain? Is it the prosthetics? Is there a moment when you go, I'm not there anymore?
Well, it's a funny thing because even when you go to these extremes, because it happens slowly for yourself, I've never done any change where I've actually felt like I succeeded at the time, because I still have seen me. But then at a certain point, once you actually begin, that's when you start to see somebody different completely. And you go, okay, maybe I've got a chance of doing this now.
Now, obviously, that you're playing someone who really exists in real life, and I find that so interesting because I do wonder, if he will see the film? Like, do you have any idea if it will even get to him, or if he will have any interest in seeing it?
I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. I suspect he's not particularly interested. I think he's a thick-skinned individual. I think probably he probably considers myself and the other filmmakers to be rather insignificant people who he doesn't really much care what we say about him. He had said about him almost everything under the sun. But he does also have a sense of humor. When he was called Darth Vader, he would dress his dog as Lord of the Sith, and he even sat dressed as Darth Vader behind his desk in the White House a couple of times as jokes, and references that in speeches as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's curious enough to go watch it, but I don't think it's top of his list.
Yeah. One thing, I've interviewed you for many roles, and I've loved the roles you've played, everything from The Machinist to American Psycho to obviously this and The Fighter. I was just curious, do any of them ever stay with you? Like, do you ever miss a character you've played? Is there any?
I do.
Can I ask which ones? Do you mind?
There's actually many of them, because you it sounds crazy, but it is. You get fond of certain characters. I mean, even with Cheney, I had a great time making this film, and I looked for the parts of him that he would probably dismiss as me being overly sentimental, but the parts of him to do with his family and etc. that I did find commendable. You cannot forget also, obviously, everything devastating that happened later, but finding those, and so even with that, there's a confusion. Because I look at Cheney and I do think, good times, because I played the guy, But there's multiple, and there's also a few which I'm very glad never to visit again.
So I'm going to start off with a very random question about this movie, because I saw a scene. I went back and watched it again. There's a moment in early on in the story where you're giving him an ultimatum in the house, and there's a fly that's
Yes.
flying around the scene.
That fly was so difficult to work with. It just kept going. No, it was.
I wanted to know, was that meant to be? Was it
No,
CGI? Was it
no.
completely accidental?
That was completely accidental. And I think it appears somewhere else in the film too. So keep an eye out for that tricky fly.
It lands on Christian's face in
It
the
does.
scene.
But also, like, whatever they put on his face to recreate blood and vomit, sorry,
It's okay.
it was attracting the fly. So it was, but like Christian's focus was amazing because I'm sitting there watching his coverage and I'm like, there's a fly in his face and he isn't moving at all.
Did he even notice it?
I don't know.
That's the most...
I mean, I could feel the fly. But it was good because I could be irritated. So, I mean, he just had to be so still and committed to where he was at.
I don't know why I randomly noticed that, but it was something
it's
that
amazing.
just stuck out to me. I'm like, did Adam put that in like CG or like it was so random?
No, and it's somewhere else, so I forget where I saw it again. No, it's probably not the same fly, but you know, there is a fly.
Yeah, they hired him.
They hired him.
He has a SAG membership.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
acting. You know, obviously the beauty of this film is that everyone disappears in their roles. You don't see Amy Adams, you don't see Steve Carell, you don't see Christian Bale on camera. For you as an actress, I know this is might be a hard to answer the question, but I'm wondering, is there a science to disappearing in the sense of like, is it the way your angle is shot, the way you maybe move your eyes or facial expression? Do you think about the idea of just completely losing yourself?
I mean, I don't think about that. I mean, I can't because then I'm going to create an awareness. And so for me, preparation is the key because you have to lose that self-awareness. You have to get the eye off of yourself. So it just takes a lot of research and commitment. But working with Christian helps because he's so committed.
Yeah.
And from my experience of working with him in the past, I knew that he was going to commit in a beautiful way to this role. And so that challenged me in a way, in a different way than I've challenged myself. I mean, I always try to challenge myself, but I really want to, I'd love to sort of start transitioning to sort of character actress. It's very exciting to me as I age to kind of move into this new, like I loved playing Lynne at 50 and 60 and 70 and diving into the reality of that physicality.
Do you wonder if the Cheneys will see this? Like, is that something that you think about, like in their family, their daughters?
I think about it now.
Yeah.
I couldn't think about it as we were making it.
Because then you'll get too connected, right?
Yeah, but I also was trying to step outside of any judgment and any sort of personal opinion I had of them and to really sort of dive into who I thought Lynne was and what her motivations were. And I found that we had things in common and she reminded me of my family members. So I suddenly understood Lynne in a different way.
Yeah, she has this amazing line in that fly scene actually what I'm referring to, where she says that, you know, I'm a woman, I can't do these things. I can't, you know, run for mayor, I can't.
Yeah.
And saying that line, knowing where we are now, in these days, was it weird to have that dialogue? Because at the time,
you know what was interesting is my daughter came to ADR. I had to do a couple of lines, television options for the lines, and she said, "What do you mean she couldn't run for mayor?"
Whoa.
And I was like, "Yeah,
That's how it was.
Yeah, that's how it was. There was a time where that was really uncommon, and you know, women. My daughter was just astounded.
Wow.
And so she's 8. And so I'm glad that to her that's shocking. Yeah. You know, I'm glad that she can see that we have grown enough that, I mean, look at the last election, how many women were elected. So, you know, we're moving towards that, towards our representation actually being a true representation.
Yeah. It was still shocking to hear you say it, even though it was like from the past.
You
know
what I
mean? Like, it reminded
I mean,
me,
there's
it
so
was
much.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of shocking information in our
There's a lot.
history.
Yeah.
And 16 in Super 8.
Did you do 16 in
We
Super
did
8?
everything, man.
It looked
We use
awesome.
old vintage TV cameras.
That's
I
cool.
mean, we went deep. Greg Fraser, our DP, is the
He's
shit.
a genius,
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's a fly flying around during Amy's speech
no.
about the ultimatum. I thought it was actually really cool that you left it in and didn't redo the take. It actually lands on Bale's face at one point.
Yeah.
Can you talk about, like, as a director, the choice to leave that in?
Well, it's the early 1960s. You're in Casper, Wyoming. It's hot. There's a fly. And there happened to be a fly, and I was like, leave it.
It's like a happy accident.
There would have been a fly there. Yeah, yeah. And he was so drunk and hungover, he wouldn't have swatted it off his own cheek. So, yeah, the VFX guys were like, we can remove that. I'm like, no, why would you remove that? Like, it's a hot, crappy day in Wyoming, and where we shot it happened to be a hot, crappy day, so we just left it.
See, to me, that is really cool. It made the scene feel more like dirty,
Right?
and gritty. So I was curious as a director, like they're not reshooting. I thought it was cool. But one of the things that I love about this movie, obviously, is I live in D.C. I am curious. Do you have any intentions of the Cheneys trying to see this movie, and like what your thoughts would be?
I would love for them to see it. I actually think Dick Cheney won't really have a problem with it. I think it's all accurate. It's what he did. It's his life. I mean, maybe in the end we show a little bit of tragedy. Maybe he wouldn't like that. But I think 99% of the movie he'd be cool with. So I would love for them to see it. I'm not going to call them up and take them out to dinner.
Right.
But actually, if they called me, I probably would go with them. And I would sit with them and watch it. So it'll be interesting. I would think Liz, his daughter, won't like it. You know, she's obviously a new high power position in Congress. And I think from what I've heard, I don't think Lynne would like it either. But I bet you Dick wouldn't care.
You know, the beauty of this film is a lot of what Christian is saying as Dick Cheney are words that Dick Cheney said. I think there's one particular scene which I won't go into detail, but at the end. But I was curious about using his real lines in the sense of like you're making a film that's a 2-hour film that's covering multiple years.
Yeah.
But you also use real lines. And can you talk about the choice of that?
Yeah, we wanted to be as honest and as real as we could be with the story of this guy, this strange, uncharismatic guy who somehow got his hands on the wheel of the White House. And Christian does so much research. Amy does so much. Sam Rockwell does so much, on and on. And I did a lot of research. And the idea of filling the movie with actual lines just felt right to us. And there's a pivotal moment towards right before the end credits where Christian Bale gives a speech. And most of what he says are real lines from Dick Cheney. I won't give it away what it is. But yeah, we felt it was important to hear his voice. We weren't trying to distort what he did. We wanted people to make up their own minds. In a lot of our test screenings, we had Republicans, we had liberals, we had everyone, and they all were like, yeah, that's fair.
That's cool. And thank you for shooting 35 and 16 and 8. It just like the grain swims gorgeously.
Isn't it the best?
Oh, it's like I'm looking at their faces like Carell's Rumsfeld. It just makes it more gritty.
You
and
want to eat it. It's like delicious.
I completely
I don't
agree
get,
with
you know, we shot Succession on 35 as well.